What does an orangutan from Argentina, an elephant in the Bronx Zoo, bumblebees in California, and pro-abortion terrorists all have in common? Let me tell you. In 2015, there was a judge in Argentina who ruled on the case of a 33-year-old orangutan who had been represented by lawyers arguing in that court that the orangutan deserved legal personhood and all the protections that went with it. In 2015, Judge Elena Liberatori declared that Sandra, the orangutan, was legally not an animal, but catch this phrase, but rather a non-human person. Thus, the orangutan was entitled to legal rights enjoyed by people, including better living conditions. Since that time, she's been released from a zoo in Argentina and relocated to an orangutan habitat in Central Florida. The case is not unlike a current case that is making its way through American courts, where lawyers are arguing that an elephant at the Bronx Zoo by the name of Happy is, contrary to her sunny nickname, is unhappy because she is being detained in the zoo illegally due to her personhood and must be released. It's fascinating to me, this phrase. We take language and we string words together to make them say exactly the opposite of what they mean. For example, in both the orangutan case and the elephant case, what exactly is a non-human person? Now, the reason this is significant, oh, and by the way, there is a current ruling that just came down in the state of California that now considers California bumblebees to be fish. So what in the world is that? Well, in order for the bumblebees, who are supposedly endangered species, in order for them to be protected under the 1970 California Endangered Species Law, they have to fall into the category of invertebrates. The language of the law covers invertebrates. It was designed originally to cover endangered fish species, but it has now been expanded because we make words mean whatever we want them to mean. It's now been expanded to not only protect fish, but certain types of insects. Can you imagine being a farmer in California and now being told that you can't earn a living for your family because there might be an endangered bumblebee on your farm? Well, what's going on here? Well, particularly in the orangutan and elephant case, we are trying to give the rights of personhood to a non-human person. Now, as ridiculous as that is, and it might be the entire subject of this truth currents, if not for this, it strikes me that the whole premise in America today justifying abortion is that the fetus is not human. You see, personhood is the bottom line issue upon which an abortion decision ought to rest. What we have is we now can make the case that orangutans and elephants are non-human persons, but we can't make the case in the minds of some radicals that an unborn baby is also a human. I'd be happy for you to use the phrase non-human human, if that's what it takes to bring protection to human babies in the womb as devotedly as we now are trying to protect orangutans and elephants and bumblebees. Here's the thing. Right now, the Supreme Court is considering the Dobbs case. This is the case that has real potential to overturn 50 years of case law based on the faulty constitutional ruling of Roe versus Wade. As the Dobbs case is about to come down, it should be here any day, a draft of a potential decision was leaked probably by somebody trying to put pressure on the court so that they wouldn't issue this ruling that sets aside Roe versus Wade. As a result of that leak, there has been a dramatic increase of terrorist actions against pro-life churches and pregnancy centers that oppose abortion. It's a group called Jane's Revenge. They take their name from the Jane Roe of the Roe v. Wade decision back in the 70s. And Jane's Revenge is a loose affiliation, apparently, of like-minded individuals that have vandalized, marked up with graffiti, and even firebombed pregnancy centers around the country with some interesting statements. Let me read you some of them. Voicemails left at crisis pregnancy centers are often laced with profanity. They've said things like, "Burn, little Jesus freaks, burn, burn, burn." And here's what they've demanded. In a letter that was sent out a couple of months ago, this organization called Jane's Revenge has demanded, quote, "the disbanding of all anti-choice establishments, fake clinics, and violent anti-choice groups within the next 30 days. In other words, what they've said is, if you don't close your doors, if legal abortion goes away, we're coming for you. Well, they released another letter. You see, they gave the pro-life movement 30 days to shut down all their facilities, to end all of their ministries, to close all of their doors. When the 30 days was up, they sent an open letter that was published that said this. I'm not making this up. I'm reading quotes directly from the open letter published by Jane's Revenge. In this open letter that was published on June the 15th, just a few days ago, they say, your 30 days expired yesterday. We offered an honorable way out. You could have walked away. Now the leash is off, and we will make it as hard as possible for your campaign of oppression to continue. Now I'm going to read you some more, but let's just think about that. Protecting human life in the womb is now a campaign of oppression. Drama much? Well, the letter goes on to say this. We have demonstrated in the past month how easy and fun it is to attack. We are versatile. We are mercurial. And we answer to no one but ourselves. All right, let's pause. Let's look at that. You might want to consider exactly when you became such a horrible person if you say that it's easy and fun to attack other people. And you might want to reconsider the inherent anarchy when you say we answer to no one but ourselves. Listen, throughout human history, whether it was the early chapters of Genesis leading to the flood of Noah, leading to the Tower of Babel, whether it was the book of Judges where every man did what was right in his own eyes, the reality is no movement in human history has ever ended well with the theme motto, we answer to no one but ourselves. Back to the letter. We promised to take increasingly drastic measures against oppressive infrastructures. Rest assured that we will, and those measures may not come in the form of something so easily cleaned up as a fire and graffiti. Sometimes you will see what we do and you will know that it is us. Sometimes you will think you are merely unlucky because you cannot see the ways in which we interfere in your affairs, but your pointless attempts to control others. Wait a minute. They're protesting that pro-lifers are trying to control others by threatening violence so that they can control us? Your pointless attempts to control others and make life more difficult will not be met passively. Eventually, your insurance companies and your financial backers will realize you are a bad investment. This group, Jane's Revenge, has taken responsibility for recent attacks on pregnancy and pro-life centers in Madison, Wisconsin, Fort Collins, Colorado, Reisterstown, Massachusetts, Olympia, Washington, Des Moines, Iowa, Linwood, Washington, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, Hollywood, Florida, Vancouver, Washington, Frederick, Massachusetts, Denton, Texas, Gresham, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon. In other words, there is a spate, an epidemic of pro-abortionist terrorism sweeping across our country. How do we know it's all the same group? Because their tagline, their graffiti motto is left at each location. And it says this: if abortions aren't safe, neither are you. Jane's Revenge promises that if the Supreme Court ruling on the Dobbs case actually comes down and overturns Roe versus Wade, they promise that there will be a nationwide night of rage. Imagine that. A group of leftist radicals threatening riots and fires and violence nationwide if they don't get their way. And they tell us that we're the problem in America. There was even an assassination attempt recently on one of the conservative Supreme Court justices, Justice Brett Kavanaugh. A man traveled from California to Washington, D.C., where he staked out the house, the private residence of a Supreme Court justice with the intention of assassinating him. Jane's Revenge says that it will be open season. That's their language. Open season on anybody who is pro-life, anyone who protects human life. They say this: though through attacking, we find joy, courage, and strip the veneer of impenetrability held by these violent institutions, meaning the people who are saving life. You see how we play with language here? Elephants can be non-human persons. Orangutans can be non-human persons. Terrorist organizations can be peacemakers, charging their actions are the fault of those of us who protect life because we are the violent institutions that endanger society. Well, what do we do here? Well, we go to the government. No, here's the problem with that. The FBI and the Biden Department of Justice, we've already seen them mobilized in recent months against domestic terrorists. But in the language of this current administration, domestic terrorists are not pro-abortion radicals who are firebombing and vandalizing property that they don't own. No, according to the FBI and the Department of Justice, domestic terrorists are parents who show up at educational board meetings in their towns to speak on behalf of their children about the ungodly curriculum that's being proposed. How do you turn to the government for help when the government has no idea the difference between right and wrong? Our government has forfeited their moral authority. Parents concerned for their children are domestic terrorists, but there has been silence across the board about Jane's Revenge. These people actually throwing firebombs and destroying property. Well, Romans chapter 1, here we are again. Listen to these words. Claiming to be wise, they became futile in their reasonings, fools. And they exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible mankind, of birds, four-footed animals, and crawling creatures. Therefore, God gave them up to vile impurity in the lusts of their hearts, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for falsehood, and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Verse 28, just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a depraved mind to do things that are not proper. People having been filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, and evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unfeeling, and unmerciful. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. I thought the Bible said that Christians are supposed to turn the other cheek. Yes, Jesus did say that. He said it in terms of personal relationships. He said it in terms of not taking an offense when we've been insulted, but turn the other cheek does not mean that we roll over for domestic terrorists who will attack and promulgate violence against people that they consider to be their opponents. While we're out there trying to provide the legal benefits of personhood to non-human persons like apes and elephants, how is it that in this country there is no place for the personhood and the legal protections that go with that for babies that have this simple bad luck of not yet being able to pass through the birth canal? Paul used his citizenship as a Roman citizen to his advantage, and we've got to do that as well. We have to pressure our elected officials to step up and act in a manner that is consistent with their responsibility as political leaders. We need to vote some of these people out come November, but we can't wait until November. We need to demand the rights of our citizenship. We have legal standing here, and there are not permissible bounds within our structure that allow people to choose indiscriminately to bomb and assault and violate their political opponents. Jane's Revenge? When will the Department of Justice do something about this terrorist group? When will the FBI find out the leaders behind this movement? When will the effort to defend the rights of people who own those properties, when will those rights be defended by our government with the same diligence that they defend the other side? Folks, America is an incredible experiment in human nature and political structures. But America cannot survive if that structure is entirely one-sided. There's a word for it. It's not republic. It's not even democracy. The word for that is totalitarianism. We can pray, and we must pray. We must stand for truth. We must remain faithful. But this is not a battle that we looked for. This is a battle that has come to our door. We will assert the privileges of our citizenship. We will pray for the judgment of God on evil and wicked men. If that makes you uncomfortable, then you better just get out of the fight. because this is not a time for sitting down at a table and compromising on issues. This is a battle for the soul of a nation. And those who hold to truth, we're going to have to stand up. As they assault us, as they threaten us, it's not just the judicial system of our country that's at stake here. It's the very heartbeat of America. We will stand for truth, and we will contest the twisted use of language to try and justify behaviors and sins that we can never accept. Roll up your sleeves, because it's about to get serious. Get on your knees, and then get up and get in the battle. This is Truth Currents.